dare you refuse to help your sister? My parents yelled when I wouldn't empty my savings for her startup. I didn't argue, I simply walked away. This morning, they finally discovered why. You're being completely selfish, Claire. My mother's voice ricocheted off the marble countertops of their Nashville home like a whip crack. Your sister has a dream, and you're just sitting on all that money like some kind of miser. I gripped the edge of the farmhouse sink, trying to steady myself as the room turned into a courtroom, and I was the defendant. My name is Claire Dawson, and at 31, I was apparently the villain for refusing to drain my hard-earned savings to bankroll my younger sister Mia's latest golden opportunity. It's not like that, I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. I've worked for years for that money. I have plans. Plans. Mia laughed, tossing her caramel blonde hair like she was on some reality show. What plans? Your little data job in Seattle. This is a real chance, Claire. Her dream, a luxury wine bar in the heart of downtown Nashville, complete with live jazz and overpriced charcuterie boards. Do you have any idea how many influences I could bring in? She pressed. My father, usually the quiet diplomat, finally spoke. Claire, be reasonable. Your sister has vision. She's always had that spark. Then came the dagger. Your study stable. You can always save more. Those words, study stable, sliced deeper than they knew. In our family, they were code for dull, forgettable. I swallowed hard. I have $138,000 saved, I said quietly, and Mia wants all of it. Every penny. It's an investment, Mia shot back. You'd be a partner for once in your life. Think big, Claire. But all I could think about was the path I'd taken to get here. Tiny apartment in Seattle while working 2 jobs through grad school. Late nights, running analytics reports, being vacations, saying no to impulse buys, clipping coupons into my 20s. Meanwhile, Mia had hopped from one failed venture to the next, the online boutique that tanked in 4 months. The wellness studio that shut down in 8 weeks. The exclusive event company that booked exactly 1 client, our cousin's wedding. Each time, Mom and Dad had bailed her out. Convinced the next scheme was the one. No, I said, finally, the word sharp as glass. I'm sorry, but I won't do it. The silence lasted half a second before the explosion came. How can you be so cruel? My mother cried. And just like that, I was the selfish one for refusing to fund someone else's dream at the cost of my own. After everything we've done for you, my father said, his tone sharp with accusation. I knew you were jealous of me, Mia spat, her perfectly glossed lips curling into a smirk. But this is low. Even for you, I looked at them, really looked at them. My mother, who spent my entire childhood urging me to be more like your sister. My father, who never once asked about the projects that consumed my nights, yet probably attended every single one of me as grand openings. And Mia, beautiful, magnetic Mia, who had never worked a steady job, somehow always got everything she wanted. I'm not jealous, I said, my voice steady and calm. I'm done. I turned and walked out of the kitchen, ignoring the chorus of my name. The accusations ricochet behind me upstairs in my old bedroom. I grabbed the leather duffel I'd stashed under the bed days ago. I had seen this coming. Mia had been dropping hints about her latest campus venture for weeks, and I knew the pattern: charm, pressure, guilt trip. Claire Marie Dawson, don't you dare walk out that door, my mother shouted as I descended the stairs. I paused at the bottom, turned and looked at them one last time. What's funny? I said, a faint smile tugging at my lips. None of you ever asked what my plans were for that money, not once, because your plans probably involve more spreadsheets and boredom, Mia sneered. Some of us actually want to make something of ourselves. I laughed softly, not bitterly this time, just pity. Goodbye, I said simply, and walked out. Behind me came the sounds I knew so well. My mother's sobs, my father's heavy sigh, Mia's furious shouting. But as I slid into my car and pulled out of the driveway, I felt weightless. They had no idea. While Mia fantasized about velvet lounges and champagne bars, I'd been building something real. Tomorrow, I board a flight to Zurich to start as head of strategy at a leading renewable energy firm. A job I fought for with grit and sleepless nights. The salary was life-changing, the work impactful. Best of all, it was 5,000 miles away from their endless demands. My phone buzzed with calls and texts. I powered it off. They'd hear my news eventually, but not tonight. By this time tomorrow, I'd be walking through the glass doors of my new office overlooking Lake Zurich. Let them call me boring. I call it free, let them call me selfish. I was done being the family ATM, the dependable one. They only remembered when they needed a bailout. My phone stayed off as I walked through Zurich Airport, boarding the overnight flight that would change my life. Whatever messages they were leaving could wait. Right now, the Alps were calling. For the first time in my life, I was answering 3 months past in a blur of glass. Walled offices, global summits, and work that felt meaningful every single day. My apartment overlooked Lake Zurich, its surface like liquid silver in the morning sun. I woke up to the quiet of trance instead of the endless drone of family drama. The first few weeks, my phone overflowed with voicemails. My mother's ranged from hysterical. "How could you abandon us like this?" to manipulative. "Your father's blood pressure is through the roof because of your selfishness." Mia alternated between fury, "You've ruined everything," and desperate bargaining, "Just half the money." Claire, even 20%. I let every call go to voicemail. I had bigger things to focus on. My work at the renewable energy firm was everything I dreamed of. And more. Within 2 months, I was leading negotiations for a multi-billion-euro project to develop sustainable energy grids across Europe. My strategies were gaining attention. And for the first time, I was recognized for my vision, not called steady or boring. Then came the email. I was reviewing a presentation when my CEO walked into my office holding a press release. "Claire, have you seen this? Forbes wants to feature you in their top 30 under 35 innovators in energy. They want an exclusive." I stared at the headline on the mock-up. He handed me. There it was, my name, my ideas on the brink of going global. The feature included an invitation to speak at the World Economic Forum in Davos. That night, I sat on my balcony sipping espresso and watching the city lights dance across the lake when my phone buzzed. It was my father's number. For the first time in 3 months, I answered Claire. His voice sounded smaller than I remembered. "We saw the Forbes article and the conference invite," I said calmly. "Why didn't you tell us about the job?" "Zurich? All of it? You never asked Dad? You were too busy, calling me selfish for not funding me as wine bar." He was silent. Then quietly the bar it fell through. The building had legal issues. The whole thing was a disaster. I closed my eyes, listening to the quiet of the city below. For the first time, I felt no guilt, no regret, just freedom. I looked out over Lake Zurich, the city lights shimmering like a promise of everything I'd fought for. And this was only the beginning. Want to know what happens when Claire finally faces her family again? Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of this story. But you and Dad were always too busy with me as latest venture to listen. I heard a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. "We didn't realize." "No," I said quietly, "you didn't. And now I have to go. I have an early morning tomorrow. We're finalizing a major project." "Claire! Wait!" My mother's voice cracked. "Your sister. She's been struggling since you left. Nothing is working out for her. Maybe if you just talk to her." "No, Mom." I cut her off gently, but firmly. "I'm not Mia's backup plan anymore. I have my own life now." After hanging up, I sat on my balcony overlooking the shimmering surface of Lake Zurich, thinking about all the times I tried to share my dreams. The late nights drafting business models in grad school while my family skipped my milestones from me as latest fig launch. The graduation they barely acknowledged because she was opening her boutique that weekend. My phone buzzed again. "A text premier saw your little Forbes feature. Must be nice wasting your life crunching numbers while your family falls apart." "Real classy, Claire." I smiled and typed back. "Actually, it is really nice." Then I blocked her number. The next morning, as I stood in the glass atrium of our headquarters, watching the sunrise spill across Lake Zurich, my CEO walked in. "Claire," he said with a grin, "funny thing. Your sister called the office yesterday, asked if we had any executive positions available, said she had extensive experience running businesses." I couldn't help but laugh. "What did you tell her? That we're fully staffed with qualified energy strategists?" She didn't take it well. The city below glittered in the golden morning light, and for the first time, I felt completely free, no guilt, no expectations, just purpose. "He added, when we hired you, your family was listed as your emergency contact. Do you want to update that?" I thought about it. About all the times my family had turned crises into leverage. I said firmly, I would. As the team gathered for the day's work, the last weight of obligations slipped from my shoulders. I hadn't just found a career. I'd found myself, and no amount of guilt trips, tantrums, or manipulative calls could take that away. For the first time, my mother had been right about one thing. I looked happy, and I truly was thriving, not in spite of leaving, but because of it. 6 months after the Forbes feature, I stood in my corner office overlooking Lake Zurich, staring at my phone in disbelief. 8 voicemails from my family, each one more desperate than the last. I hadn't heard from them since blocking Mia's number and updating my emergency contacts. So why the sudden interest? Apparently, last night's global broadcast of the World Economic Forum had caused quite a stir back home. There I was, boring, predictable, Claire speaking confidently on sustainable energy solutions to an audience of world leaders. The first voicemail was from my mother, her tone dripping with sudden pride. "Darling, you were absolutely brilliant. Why didn't you tell us you were speaking at such an important event?" The Hendersons saw it on CNBC and called to congratulate us. The next was my father's princess. "We had no idea your work was this significant. The country club is buzzing. The university dean even called me at the lounge, said we must be so proud. The rest were from distant relatives who hadn't spoken to me in years, suddenly fascinated by my amazing career. But the last voicemail made me pause. Mia calling from a new number. Claire, I watched her speech. You looked incredible. Listen, I've been thinking, maybe we could talk. I've got this new idea for an eco-friendly beauty brand. With your connections, I deleted the message without hesitation through the glass walls of my office. I saw my team preparing for today's negotiations, the final stage of a €2 billion energy grid project that would transform Europe's infrastructure. Just then, Henrik, our CEO, knocked on my door, grinning, ready for more fame. Bloomberg wants you for an exclusive interview after the deal closes. I laughed, dropping my blazer. As long as they don't slow down my team as we walked to the boardroom, Henrik handed me an envelope. Speaking of recognition, the UN Climate Summit invited you as the keynote speaker. All expenses covered, plus an honorarium that makes most CEOs jealous. I opened it, my eyes widening at the number. This is unreal. You earned it, Claire. Your strategy is changing the game. He smirked. Though I suspect your family might be disappointed to learn, you'll spend it on expanding renewable projects, not on funding Mia's next business idea. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Darling, we're thinking of visiting. Mia has some wonderful ideas to share with you. Your WF talk could really help her brand. I powered the phone off and smiled. Some things never change, but I typed a quick reply. Sorry. Can't host visitors, too busy finalizing the International Green Energy Accord. Feel free to watch my Bloomberg interview next week, turning my phone off. I grabbed my presentation materials and headed to the conference hall. The film crew was already setting up as my team finalized the data models for the €2 billion renewable grid expansion. Today's session would showcase how our pilot program had cut carbon emissions by 40% across multiple European cities. As Dawson, the producer, called out, "Could you explain for the camera what inspired you to pursue sustainable energy?" I thought about all those years. My family dismissed my ambitions as boring about every holiday dinner where they pushed me to be more like Mia, flashy, bold, risky. I smiled at the lens. I learned early on that the most powerful changes aren't always the loudest. Sometimes progress is steady, deliberate, quiet work that moves the world forward. Producer grinned. Perfect. That's exactly the tone we need. As the cameras rolled and the session began, I glanced around the room. Executives, government leaders, investors. 6 months ago, they called me unambitious. Today, world leaders were asking for my signature. My life was nothing like what my family imagined for me. No boutique ventures, no desperate scrambles for attention. Instead, I had built this future brick by brick, late nights, strategy, papers, courage to walk away from the people who never believed in me. The study daughter had become the architect of Europe's largest green energy initiative, not by chasing shortcuts, but by honoring her own vision. Hours later, as the deal closed and applause broke out, I stood at the podium looking out over the room. My phone buzzed in my bag, no doubt with more calls from home. I didn't check it. My real circle was here. Colleagues who respected me, the partners who trusted my expertise, the global network that valued my voice. That evening, I stepped onto my balcony overlooking Lake Zurich, the city glowing like a constellation. I thought about the path that brought me here, the insults, doubts, the endless comparisons, and then I smiled. Tomorrow, I'd fly to Geneva for the Climate Summit keynote. The cameras would roll again and the world would listen. The daughter they called boring had found her spotlight, not by demanding it, like Meal would have, but by earning it through relentless patient work. That was the greatest victory of all. I walked away from the life everyone else planned for me. Let me tell you, it wasn't easy. The guilt trips, the accusations, constant voice in my head asking, what if they're right? I faced all of it. But here I am, thriving in a career that matters, surrounded by people who value me for who I am, not for how much I can give them. If you've ever been in a situation where your family or friends expected you to sacrifice your dreams for theirs, tell me in the comments. What did you do? Did you stand your ground? Or are you still figuring it out? I want to hear your story because no one talks enough about the courage it takes to put yourself first. And if you take anything from my journey, let it be this: being steady is not boring. And setting boundaries is not selfish. Survival, strength. Your worth is not defined by how much you give up for others, defined by the life you build for yourself. If you believe that too, hit that subscribe button and stick around for the next chapter.